Okay, this is like my sixth time doing this because literally I cannot get iMovie to line up my poster so I can talk about it, and I don't want to do a slideshow. So we're going to do a face-to-face video kind of, just I'm not signed up for that. So I will attach like a picture of my little buddy, but I'm also just going to talk about it right here because I talk with my hands, so it's also kind of how I identify with. So yeah. So my name is Brooke Smith. I'm a sophomore in here at K-State, and I am a major in business education with a minor in leadership. And coming into college, I was not business education, and this is kind of important for when I start talking about my little buddy. I was supply chain management entrepreneurship with a certificate in professional strategic selling, and a minor in leadership. And once I kind of realized who I was as a person and how I worked and functioned, I'm someone who's very passionate about helping others, and I thought, oh, I could change the business world, but really I had to take a step back and think how the business world is learned about, and that is mainly in high school. I've never taken a business class in middle school, but like my whole thing, I've always been business. Like even at the age of 7, I wanted to open my own vet clinic. So like I've always had like this business mentality, and then I realized that's where I was going wrong, and that's when I kind of started identifying myself and like really struggling with who I was as a person because I was chasing the wrong thing. I was chasing CEO and positions and money, when in reality, where I'm called to be at is a high school business teacher. A lot of like my out statements, which here you kind of see the 2 Band-Aids, and then on the side it says, education is an easy major. Kids will not like you. Those were kind of a lot of the reactions when I first told everyone I was going into business. Education, because I had a really good job lined up after college with McKinsey & Company in Dallas, just because I networked all through high school. I was in one of the top internships in the nation this past summer, and even before that I was interning with like companies like Zach Ford and a lot of different aspects of business to try to expand my knowledge. So when I told everyone I was going to education, they're like, that's such an easy major. That is such something a girl would do. And kids aren't going to like you. You're way too out there. And I'm very out there. I know who I am. I love who I am. And it took me a long time to get here. And so I just embrace it. And kind of talking about my brain and how a little bit about my stories. I'm about to get really deep here. So just buckle your seatbelt. So as my brain, it says anxiety, depression, and bipolar. Those are what I struggle with, my mental illnesses. I'm very passionate about mental illness. I'm a big advocate for it, and I'll kind of get in a little bit once I explain about my mental illnesses. I was diagnosed with anxiety my junior year of high school. It's where I couldn't function. I started to lose hair. I had to go get blood tests drawn every single week because my anxiety was so bad. I was stressing my body out and killing myself. Not like self-harm, like my stress was just changing me in all different ways. Then I developed depression freshman year of college. I grew up with a father in the military, so I moved around. I went to 5 different elementary schools, 3 different middle schools, and 1 high school, luckily. But I never really got to connect with people, and so like I'm very adaptive, so I never had like cliques. I kind of like I just fit in with everyone. I was able to get along with everyone. I love people. I just love people. And so like when I came to college, it was really hard because like I would go out with some girls, but they'd go out like every day, and I didn't connect with them on that level. But then I'd connect with some churchgoers, but then when I went out with the like partiers, they wouldn't talk to me. And it was like really hard to really find myself, and my parents were going through a divorce at the time. So it was like I didn't really know what my siblings were doing at home, which I'm a protector. Here's the deep part. I grew up in a very physically abusive household by my father and very verbally abusive from my mother. So I ended up moving out at 16. And it was only ever to me and like every once in a while my brother, but I was kind of the outlet for their anger and whatever the heck they were going through, and they just lash out. So I was like really nervous when they were going through the divorce if my siblings were safe. And so that created that like deep depression where I wouldn't go to class because I was so worried about my siblings. I would drive home at random points of the day just to make sure they were okay because I was paranoid. And then my bipolar, I am actually okay with this one. And I'll kind of explain why I'm okay with this one and why I'm not okay with the other ones in a little bit. Sorry, I'm like all over the place. I'm like really passionate about this stuff, and like I said, I've recorded this so many times, and I just did face to face, so now you can like see me and know I'm literally red because I'm just so excited. And I'm actually type 2 bipolar. I got diagnosed with this 2 months ago, and it was kind of relieving because I go through these manic episodes where I go nuts, like paranoid, and it all makes sense to me now of why I am the way I am and why I have those really depressive moments, but then why I'm really high. A lot of type 2 bipolar is a lot of mood swings, so it really kind of just connected with me and made me realize there's nothing wrong with me. And as an in-person, in-group with the mental illnesses, like when an out-group person says, oh, you're just talking about your mental health because you want attention, but in reality, like, I'm very passionate about it because I know what it's like every day to struggle to just get out of bed and find a will to live. I'm not suicidal, by the way. I just feel like talking about this, people can get scared. And that's another reason I'm going into education. In my little buddy, you see the word empathy. Empathy is something that is very important to me because you never know what someone is going through. And in order to be an inclusive leader, I believe you have to have empathy, which I'm about to pull up the prompts so I don't get anything wrong, even though I know them all by now because I've done it so many times. But so my story was kind of coming up in the traumatic childhood and using my mental illness to kind of identify myself with my identity, because once I discovered I was type 2 bipolar, I was so confident in myself. And that sounds crazy. Most people are like, gosh darn it, I'm bipolar. Like, I'm like, that makes so much more sense. And so you kind of got to show empathy because some people don't know how to deal with their mental illnesses. And when I was talking about empathy and inclusive leadership, like I define in cultural leadership as collaborative, process, inclusive, accessible, value-based, and involvement. And like an example of that is, like you can see on my 2 arms of my little buddy, it says non-denominational and relationship is greater than religion. I have been religious my whole life, but I've always preferred the term relationship over religion. I've always been a fixer. I don't like divide, and religion is one of the top controversial topics just because everyone has different beliefs. But by talking about your different beliefs, processing it with an open ear, like you can see eye contact is important to me. Like when you have that eye contact, you're physically processing that information, and then you're incorporating it and finding that similarities and accessing it to each other and incorporating your values in order to get each other involved in learning and engaging. So that's kind of how I define intercultural leadership, and one way I practice it. Like if I have an opportunity to go learn about Catholicism, I take it because I want to better be able to connect and learn not to offend anyone. Another big thing, I am a very proud feminist. You can see I have my feminist and I have the word female up there. I believe a lot of people think, oh, you're a girl in the boys' world. And we're not. And that is kind of an example of like the power and privilege that guys have in certain like business aspects. Like for an example, CEO, like you mostly think of a white CEO, but there are many girl CEOs who had to work for what they had just because they weren't a white male. And so kind of like privilege comes into that. And so like as a teacher, you're like, oh, that's a girl's job. Actually, it's anyone's job. You just have to be passionate about kids. You have to be passionate about teaching people, and you have to be passionate about making a change. And that, I believe education is like the most important major because you're informing the young minds of America, and I want them to be inclusive and to practice that. And my role in my inclusive community is teaching kids about their leadership styles, like their Clifton strengths. Like I want to take Lead 212 into high school and help kids learn how to talk about these conversations. And I want to be an advocate for mental illness. And like if they're having a bad day, we adjust the curriculum. And I think it's so outdated from older generation teachers. They're like, oh, suck it up, buttercup. Go get your work done. It doesn't work like that. Like it just doesn't. And so like my role in the inclusive community is talking about these tough conversations like mental illness in the classroom and reforming like the curriculum and business so no one feels like they're a girl in the boys' world. But that's a little bit about my little buddy. I'm going to attach a picture I'm sorry it's blurry. I've tried iMovie. It was not working for me, but I'm also like sleep deprived right now. But thank you so much for everything you taught me this semester. you really had an impact on my cultural identity, and I appreciate it.